most important thing which you should know in a Python, because so many interview question also ask related to the list only, that actually we are going to understand in this particular video. So let's start. So list is one of the most important topic. So if you will go for any interview also, one question definitely they will ask regarding list. So first they will ask what is list and what are the feature of a list, what is the difference between the list and tuple. Tuple we will understand later. And also they will give some coding question related to the list, and that coding question you have to answer it. So we had to understand list in depth, so that actually we are going to do. So in this particular video, first we will understand what is list, what are the feature of list, and then we will see how actually we can create a list, what are the different method which is available, everything we are going to understand. So let's understand what is list. A list is a built-in data structure in a Python. So list is one of the built-in data structure in a Python. It is used to store multiple item in a single variable. List generally be used to store multiple item in a single variable. For taking example, you can see I have created one list. In this list you can see I am storing the multiple item in a single variable, right? So list generally we use to store multiple item in a single variable. Lists are ordered, so whatever the value we have, right, this all the values will be always in the order format. It is a mutable. Mutable means suppose you want to change this value, so in the list it is possible you can change the value, that's why we call it as a mutable. And it can contain elements of different data types. So you can see the string values also there, integer values also there, like multiple data type value also you can store. So what is list? List generally be used to store multiple item in a single variable. It is order, it is a mutable, and it can contain element of a different data type that you have to say. Now what are the key feature of a list? It is a order. Element have a defined order and it can be accessed by their index. So the first key feature is a order. So lists are always in a order format and it can be accessed by their index. So you can see whatever the value is stored here, right? So this all the value we can access by using their index. So the first index is always 0. First index is 0. So for this one, right, the first index is 0. So if I'll write and 0, L and 0. So if I'll execute this, you can see I'm getting this value. This value is 1, right? Let me change it to A. Let me change it to A. Now let me execute. You can see this value I'm able to access. Means whatever the value is stored here, this will always be in the order format, and that actually you can access by using a index. Now suppose you want to access this particular value. So this is a 0 index, this is the first index, and this is the second index, right? So if I write L2 and if I'll execute, you can see I'm able to access this particular value. Means whatever the value is stored, that is in order format, and that actually we can access through a index. So that is the order. So it is always in order. That is a key feature. The second thing is it is a mutable. Means whatever the value is there, right, it can be changed. Suppose this L2 is 4, right? This value I want to change it to 5. Now if I'll execute and if I'll execute L, you can see this 4, right, it became 5, because what we had in whatever the L in second index, whatever the value is there, that I want to change to the 5. So you can see in final list what actually we are getting A 3, and then it became a 5. Previously it was 4, right, but we have changed it to the 5. That's why we call it as a mutable, means we can change the value. The third one is like heterogeneous. It can store element of a different data types like integer, string, floats. So you can see this is the example. Here we are storing a string, here we are storing an integer, and also you can store the float, like multiple data type value you can store here. Fourth is the dynamic size. List can grow or shrink as elements are added or removed. So in a list we can add the value and we can remove the value, so it can grow or it can be shrink also. So suppose I want to add a new value, so we have a different method. Suppose I will use l dot append. I want to add a new value 6. Now if I'll print l, you can see 6 got added. Means you can add a value and you can remove a value, so that is the advantage. So what is list? A list is built-in data structure in a Python which we use to store multiple items in a single variable. Lists are order, mutable, and it can contain a element of a different data type. What are the key feature? Always remember, it is order, it is a mutable, it can contain the multiple data types, and also it can dynamically, it can grow or it can shrink. So that is the thing you have to remember. Now let's see how actually we can create a list. We'll understand about the order, mutable, heterogeneous, and different method we have that we will understand. Now how to create a list? Creating a list is very simple, right? Suppose first you have to declare a variable. Suppose I'm declaring one variable a. You have to open a square bracket. This is the square bracket. In this square bracket, no multiple values can contain. It can contain the value, multiple value. So this is how the list will look like. Now if you want to check the type of a, you can see it is a list. So this is how actually we can create a list. Now how to create an empty list? If you had to create an empty list, what you have to write? First you have to declare a variable, and if you'll do like this, and if you'll check the type of a, you can see it is list. But as of now in a, you can see it is an empty list. So that's how actually this is the command for creating an empty list. Now index. So we have to understand about the index. Index is very much important in a list. So suppose this is the list I have. Let me create one list. This is the list I have. So always remember the index start with a 0 and index and with -1. What does it mean? So if you want to access this element, right? So whatever this element is stored, this always store in a order format, and if you want to access this with the help of index, we can access. So if I'm writing index start with 0, it means so this value, right? This is the 0 index, this is the 1 index, this is the second index, this is the third index. So you have to count like this is the 0 index value, this is the first index value, this is the second index value. So index start with the 0, that you have to remember. Now suppose I want to access the first element. So what I will write? A0. If I write A0, you can see I'm getting this particular value. If I write A3, A3 means this is the 0 index, this is the first index, this is the second index, and this is the third index, right? A third means I should get the value 5. So if I'll execute, I'm getting the 5. So index always start with the 0, and like that you can access. So and it is end with a -1. So from last you want to access, then you have to count from starting. We were counting from 0, 1, 2, right? From last, if you have to count, you have to count -1, -2, -3. So suppose you want to access the last element. So if I write a -1, you can see I am getting a 9. If you want to access the second last element, what you have to write? Second last will be a -2. So you can see I am able to access the 7. So index start with the 0, index end with the -1, that you have to remember. The third is the mutable. Mutable, what is mutable means? And this is the common interview question also. Mutable means you can change the value. Suppose I want to change the first value of this list with a 7. This first value I want to change with the 7. So if I write a0 equal to the 7, the first value will get changed. Now if I'll print a, you can see previously it was 1, right? Now it got changed with the 7 because we can change the value. Heterogeneous means list can store the multiple value. It can store the same data type. It can store the multiple data types, and like that, and also it can contain the float also like this. And if I'll check the type of a, it is a list only. Dynamic size means we can add the value and we can remove the value. So if I write a dot append 5, and if I print a, you can see 5 got added. 5 got added. This was the list, right? In this list 5 got added. So we can add and we can remove the value also. Now let's understand about the list method. So we have a different list method, and it is a very much important also, because suppose anyone has given you any interview coding related question. So these are the different method which will help. Suppose anyone has given you any question like you had to reverse a list. So for reversing a list, we have one inbuilt method available. So you should know like what are the inbuilt method is available. So if you use l.reverse, the particular list will be reversed. Suppose if anyone is saying like you had to remove a specific value from the list, so for that we have a remove method is available. Suppose anyone is saying like you had to add a value into the list, so for that we have a append and insert method. So you should know like how actually you can use a different method which is already available in a list, and that actually you can use in your coding. coding, and this will improve your coding also. So this is an important topic, and you should know about this all the list method which is available. So let's understand one by one. So suppose I have one list. This is the list. Let me create one list: 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if anyone is saying like you had to add an element into this particular list, so we have one append method which is available. With the help of the append method, we can add any element into the list. So always remember, append we use to add an element into the list. So if I'll use a dot append, suppose I want to append 9 value into this particular list. Now if I'll execute, the A, you can see it was a 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But 9 got added because we have used the append method. Now one thing, if you will see, it actually added the value into the last. So append we use whenever you have to add any value into the list, and whenever you have to add into the last only, then only you will use the append method. Now, but suppose my requirement is like I want to add this particular value into this particular index, like I want to add here. But if I use append method, it is always adding into the last. So how actually I can add into the specific, like suppose I want to add after 3. So how actually I can do that? So in this way we have a insert method. So what actually we can write? So if I write, first I will show you the list. This is the list I have. So if I'll do a dot insert, what actually I want into the third index. In the third index, what value I want to add? I want to add a 10. I want to add a 10. So what actually I am writing, a dot insert, this is the which particular index. So this is the 0 index, this is the first index, this is the second. Here in the third index, what actually I want to add the value 10. So that is the what actually I am writing. If I'll execute this, you can see in the third index the value 10 got added. So if you had to add the value at the last, then you will use the append method. If you had to add a value into the specific index, then you can use a insert method, because our requirement can be anything, right? Our requirement can be I want to add the value here. So based on that index, actually you can use the insert method and you can add the value. Now the next is the remove. Suppose I have given one list. This is the list I have. Now what actually I want to remove a specific value from this list. So I have a remove inbuilt method. I can use that. I will use a dot remove. Suppose I want to remove this 10. So what I will write, a dot remove 10. If I'll execute a, you can see 10 got removed. So we can use the remove method to remove any value from the list. Now we also have a pop method. So pop removes element by index. So let me show you my list first. This is the list I have, right? Now in this list, suppose you want to remove any elements. So we have a remove method to remove any specific value. But suppose if you are using a pop, this is the list you have, right? 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the list we have. Now if you use a dot pop, what actually it will do? It will remove the last element, last value. Now if you will execute, you can see 6, right? Now if you will execute, if you will check your list, you can see 6 got removed. So whenever you have to remove the last element value, you can use a pop. Now we have a sort. So suppose this is the list I have. As of now it is sorted. Let me create a new list. I'll use a 4, 5, 3, 7, 5. So and I can use a 9. So this is the list I have. This is the list I have. Now you can see this is not in sort format. I want to sort it. So how actually I can use? I can use a sort method. So if I'll use add l dot sort, and if I'll check, if I'll check the L, you can see this list got sorted. This list got sorted. So you can use the sort method to sort the list. You can see it's sorted, right? So sort method you can use to sort. Now suppose anyone is giving you any question and you had to reverse this list. Whatever the value is there, you had to reverse. So we have a reverse method. So what I will write, l dot reverse. If I'll do this and if I'll check the L, let me again, you can see this was the list, right? Now if I'll use l dot reverse, what actually it did? It actually reversed the value. So we have a reverse method for that list. Now we have a extend method. So suppose you have a two list. My first list is 1, 3, 4. This is the list. Second list is 4, 5, 6. Now this this L1 list you want to add into this L only. So what actually you can use? You can use the extend method. If I'll use L dot extend L1, and if I'll print L, you can see whatever the value was there, right? It got added into the this list only. So extend we use to add element from another list. If you have a list and you want to combine, you can use the extend method. Now we have a index. So index return the index of the first occurrence of a value. Suppose you want to know what is the index of this 5. So what actually you can use L dot index, and if you will write 5, L dot index 5, and if you will write, you can see what actually it is saying. It is the fourth index. How actually it is fourth index? It is a 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is the fourth index, right? So if you want to know for particular value what is the index, you can use the index method. If you want to check what is the index of this 6, if you write 6, it is the fifth. It is a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we are getting a 5. Now we have a count method. Now you want to count how many times 4 is there. So what actually you can write L dot count 4. If you write this count 4, you can see 4 is 2 times, right? So if you want to check how many times the 4 is present, you can use the count method to count how many times it is there. So yeah, so these are the different list method is available which you should know, because this will help you in a coding. And in interview also sometimes directly they ask like to check your coding skill, like to check your Python skill, whether you are aware about this all the method or not. So they will ask you the simple question, how to remove a last element from a list. So you should know like we have a pop method. If they will say how actually you can remove a specific element, so you should understand, right, we have a remove method. If anyone is saying like you have to sort a list, so we have a sort method is available. If anyone is saying like you have to reverse a list, so we have a reverse method. If you have to add an element into the list, so we have a append method and insert method. So you should know about this all the method. So do practice it, you will get a idea.